associating me with that Duke the Jeweler situation because I went to the Boosie pool party and he happened to be there and he happened to be standing on me.
Everybody in Texas know what the play is. If you rapping, you celebrity, if you like the strip club, you like to do this, you check in with them, they bringing them bad dice on you. Why you think they Duke the Jeweler, they really couldn't get him? That's why they had, come on, homie.
Boosie just shook the entire rap world to its core, signing off on a federal plea deal that's got whispers flying through every block. Word on the street says this move might drag J. Prince and his notorious Dice crew straight into the Fed's spotlight. And that's no small thing. This ain't just some basic gun charge anymore. No, what's bubbling could blow open a full-on underground dice racket that's been bleeding rappers dry for years. And here's the real shocker. The same federal agents who've been quietly tracking the murder of Duke the Jeweler and those shady dice games before his tragic death are back on the scene. They're not just looking at names, they're digging into every single person connected to those nights. And yes, Boosie's name is now stamped right in the middle. With Boosie making a deal with the government, the streets are buzzing with one burning question. Did he just secure his own safety, or is he about to drop names that could collapse one of the most feared circles in hip-hop? If even half these rumors are on point, J. Prince, the man accused for years of controlling Houston's check-in culture, could finally be staring down federal fire you can't charm your way out of. And the timing? Suspicious as ever. People are already connecting dots, asking if Boosie just served mob ties up on a silver platter. All this heat comes back to one deadly night, that dice game where Duke lost his life. And if you've been around Houston long enough, you already know the whispers, those so-called friendly dice games that somehow always leave the house grinning while everybody else bleeds. Dice games been stitched into Houston's underground for decades, but the ones tied to J. Prince Jr., that's a whole different beast. These aren't some casual backroom hustles with a few bucks on the floor. Nah, these are high-stakes events, invite only, with stacks of cash sitting heavy on the table, and a check-in rule that makes sure the house knows exactly who's breathing in that room. But the streets say there's always a dangerous catch to these so-called games. Mob ties run it like a playbook, bring in rappers, ballers, and high rollers into a private setup, pour the drinks, flash the money, and then let the dice work their magic. Even Charleston White couldn't help but point out the whispers, though only a few dare to speak on it. From what's been laid out, the operation is cold, calculated, and tight like a machine. 3 dudes rotate. One rolls, one holds, one swaps, and here's the kicker. Those dice ain't clean out the box. They're prepped, weighted, shaved, tweaked, engineered to make the odds lean exactly where they want. The formula's simple. The house always wins. J. Prince Jr. reportedly takes around 30% off the top, and everyone else walks out lighter in the pockets. But everything flipped the night Duke the Jeweler stepped in. He wasn't some rookie rolling for thrills. He knew the game too well, and that's when the whole setup started spiraling into something deadly. Duke had just stepped out of a Boosie concert, dripped in millions worth of ice, and carrying the kind of confidence that turns heads. But here's the twist. Somehow, Duke got his hands on dice that weren't meant for him, and the game flipped. Suddenly, he starts hitting. First a few grand, then tens of thousands, until he's sitting on nearly $100,000 in winnings. And the footage don't lie. You can literally see the shift. Smiles vanish, whispers creep in, and that laid-back vibe turns stone cold. Because in a game built for you to lose, someone winning that big ain't luck. It's war. Minutes later, Duke's walking toward his car. No crew, no security, just him. Then, gunshots, chaos. And in an instant, Duke's gone. Jewelry untouched, cash untouched. Which makes one thing crystal clear. This wasn't a robbery. This was a message. That night, Duke didn't just beat the dice. He broke the system's control, and the streets knew it. And Duke wasn't some random gambler who got too lucky. He was a heavyweight in his own right, a respected jeweler out of Chicago with a client list most rappers would beg to have. His custom pieces ran in the millions. His work had the whole industry buzzing, and his charm made him a staple at hip-hop's biggest events. So when Boosie invited him to Houston, Duke thought it was all business, strictly networking. But the ambush in that parking lot told another story. The feds took one hard look and noticed the same detail everyone else missed. Every single piece of Duke's jewelry was still on him. Even that Louis Vuitton bag stuffed with over $1 million in custom work never left his side. That's no robbery. That's execution. That Louis Vuitton bag, the one stuffed with over $1 million in custom jewelry, didn't vanish into thin air. It surfaced right inside Boosie's house. Now, Boosie's story is that Duke personally asked him to hold on to it during the game, and after the shooting, it just ended up staying in his possession. But come on, nothing about that sounds simple. Duke's phone went dark right after pinging near Boosie's recording studio, and federal investigators claim they've got surveillance footage, text threads, and even witnesses putting Boosie's circle right at the center of Duke's final hours. The feds are drilling in even deeper, with eyes on Boosie's nephew as the possible trigger man. And instead of folding this into Boosie's 2023 gun case, prosecutors pulled Duke's death into its own separate federal murder probe. That means it's not a side note, it's the main event, getting undivided attention from investigators who don't miss a thing. And that's why the Louis Vuitton bag ain't just luggage. It might be the smoking gun that dragged Boosie's name into official federal files. This is where things start to look downright dangerous for him. Because here's the play. Prosecutors didn't split Duke's case by accident. That's a textbook pressure move. When the feds isolate a case, it's because they want the heat laser focused on one circle, and it gives them leverage, maximum leverage. Now they can dangle leniency on one case in exchange for names, confessions, or details on another. And Duke's case, it's a powder keg for Boosie's whole camp, with every move under the microscope. Let's start with the cold facts. Duke's phone, the very last digital breadcrumb of his life, pinged near Boosie's recording studio before it went completely dark. That's not a detail the feds are brushing off. Then add this. Prince's own crew reportedly found physical evidence inside Duke's rental car that ties straight back to people in Boosie's inner circle. Stack that with witness statements, and it's no shock that investigators are circling in tighter than ever. But here's the real danger. Boosie can't muzzle the streets, and whispers say some of his own people are already talking. And once the feds get even one person to crack, it snowballs. Stories flip, timelines start collapsing, and the fastest way to save yourself is to give the feds exactly what they're fishing for. So imagine being Boosie, sitting there with a federal gun case breathing down your neck, a murder probe heating up on the side, and the very real chance your crew might flip on you. Suddenly, cutting a deal doesn't just look tempting, it looks like survival. And in this deadly chess game, there are only two pieces he could flip on: J. Prince Jr. or the big man himself, J. Prince. And let's not forget, two of the most infamous dice games tied to J. Prince Jr. have already ended in bloodshed. Duke the jeweler? Dead hours after leaving one. Takeoff? Shot down right outside another. Different nights, different details, but the same haunting pattern: high stakes, heavy names, and gunfire before sunrise. Even industry voices aren't staying quiet. WAC 100 has flat out accused J. Prince Jr. in public, dragging the whispers straight into the spotlight. The accusations are heavy. Claims that mob ties run setups designed to pull in high-profile rappers into games they can't win unless the house allows it. Charleston White didn't hold back either. He flat out called these dice nights traps, with rigged dice and tight control where one wrong roll or one unexpected win could put a target on your back before you even touch your cash. It paints a grim picture, an ecosystem where trust is nothing but smoke, and every smile hides a power play waiting in the shadows. And here's where things get explosive. If Boosie really decides to open his mouth and start dropping names from the inside, Houston's entire check-in culture, the same system that's been running the city for years, could crumble overnight, and the ripples are already being felt. Behind the scenes, some artists are quietly backing out of Houston altogether, skipping shows and avoiding events where mob ties might be lurking in the background. They're not saying it out loud, but the fear is real. Now, J. Prince Sr. has gone on record denying there's any rule about checking in. But insiders whisper the truth is different. It's just more subtle now, enforced through J. Prince Jr.'s network. And after two high-profile deaths tied directly to dice games, even the boldest names in hip-hop are rethinking everything, asking themselves, is the risk really worth it anymore? The fear isn't just about catching a stray in the crossfire. It's about getting tangled in the politics that come with it. Old heads in hip-hop have been warning the younger generation for months. Stay out of Houston's dice scene. Because once you're in, it's not just about the stacks of money on the floor. It's about who's standing next to you when that friendly game turns deadly. Take Finesse 2 Times, for example. He went from riding tight with J. Prince Jr. to blasting him in public, accusing him of playing dirty with money, and hinting at straight-up disrespect behind closed doors. Then came the extra twist. Rumors about a messy baby mama scandal that only cracked their bond even deeper. True or not, the whispers painted a clear picture. J. Prince Jr. is bleeding allies faster than he can recruit replacements. And it's not only artists catching the pressure. Labels are paying attention too. With all eyes on the dice game controversies and the blood that keeps following them, record execs are quietly warning their artists to back away. They know one bad headline can sink an album rollout overnight, and no brand wants to be tied to a scene that's one Instagram live away from turning into a full-blown crime tape. Which is why Boosie possibly naming names isn't just a Houston problem. It's a nuclear move that could send shockwaves across the entire rap industry. But for now, the focus stays on mob ties and the empire they're fighting to keep intact. Up until now, most of the noise around mob ties has been fueled by gossip and street chatter. But behind the curtain, the feds are said to be running a much bigger play, and this one could link straight back to Houston's own police department. Recent sweeps in the city have already ripped apart whole drug rings and violent crews, with agencies like the FBI, DEA, and even ICE teaming up directly with HPD. And here's the part that should have mob ties sweating. These takedowns weren't just about corner boys and low-level players. They were about dismantling entire organizations, from the shooters holding the heat to the bosses pushing the money. That's the exact same blueprint the feds could roll out if mob ties ends up next on their list. Whispers in Houston are already saying there are sealed warrants floating around the crew, the kind that don't stay sealed forever and can flip into arrests overnight. And with HPD's Criminal Intelligence Division now working hand in hand with federal task forces, every single favor, every connection, every quiet move in that network is being dissected under a federal microscope. But here's the real bomb waiting to drop. All it would take is one piece of hard evidence to blow the whole thing wide open. Something like a leaked video from those dice nights. If footage ever surfaces showing who was really in the room, who was stacking the cash, or who gave the nod for certain plays, it wouldn't just be talk anymore. It would be case-closing evidence, the kind you can't talk your way out of. The streets are buzzing that a video does exist, footage from one of those infamous dice nights that could flip this whole story on its head. Word is, someone in the room had their phone rolling when things got tense. And that clip didn't just stay local, it's been passed around in whispers, with insiders hinting it shows names, faces, and even money exchanges that line up with the Fed's timeline. Now here's where it gets even scarier for mob ties. If that footage lands in the wrong hands, or worse, in the hands of prosecutors, it's no longer just rumor, it's evidence. That's the kind of smoking gun that can turn sealed warrants into open indictments overnight. And knowing how the feds operate, they don't move unless they already got enough to make it stick. If they get visuals on top of everything else, it's checkmate. The whispers say that's exactly why Boosie's plea deal looks so different now. Some believe the feds already showed him a preview of what they've got lined up, and the deal on the table might be his only shot at daylight. Which makes one thing clear. If Boosie starts talking with proof to back it, mob ties could be staring down the kind of case that brings a whole empire crashing to the ground. And here's the wild part. Folks say this isn't just about dice games anymore. This could be the thread that unravels years of secrets tied to Houston's most powerful players. If the whispers are true, Boosie might be standing at the edge of the biggest move of his career, not on stage, but in the courtroom. The streets are saying the feds are quietly positioning him as a potential state's witness, the kind of role that flips the script from defendant to insider. And if he takes that path, the fallout won't just be messy, it'll be historic. Think about it. Boosie sits at the center of two explosive storms, his own federal gun case and the ongoing murder probe into Duke the Jeweler. With both cases split apart, prosecutors have leverage in stereo. squeezing him from every angle. The play is obvious. Talk now, trade names, and maybe walk away lighter. Stay silent and risk drowning under charges stacked higher than the dice tables that started it all. Insiders whisper that mob ties already senses the pressure. The atmosphere around Houston has shifted. Artists are canceling appearances, labels are pulling back, and industry insiders are whispering that Jay Prince's once unshakable grip on the city is showing cracks. If Boosie confirms even half of what people believe he knows, it won't just drag Jay Prince Jr. into the storm, it could put Jay Prince Sr.'s entire legacy on trial. And that's the nuclear fear running through the game right now. Because if Houston's so-called check-in culture collapses, it won't just rattle one city. It could send shockwaves through the entire rap industry, rewriting the power map overnight. Here's where the tension hits a boiling point. Because if Boosie really does flip, it's not just names he could drop, it's details. The kind of inside info that only someone who's been in the room, seen the dice loaded, and watched the plays go down would know. And that's exactly the kind of intel the feds love, because it turns whispers into testimony and testimony into convictions. But make no mistake, this move would paint a giant target on Boosie's back. The streets don't forget, and snitch is a word that can bury a career just as fast as a federal sentence. That's the razor-thin line Boosie's walking right now. Protect himself and risk his name, or stay loyal and risk his freedom. Either way, the cost is sky high. And don't think the princes aren't feeling the weight either. Insiders say the empire's been unusually quiet, but the silence speaks volumes. Every day this deal hangs in the air, the more it looks like the feds already have their chess pieces in place. All they need is one move from Boosie to push the dominoes crashing down. The big question haunting the rap game right now, does Boosie break the code and bring mob ties down from the inside, or does he ride it out and gamble with the rest of his life? The answer could reshape not just Houston, but the entire hip-hop landscape. Right now, the whole rap world is holding its breath, because Boosie's next move could decide everything. If he takes the stand as a state's witness, mob ties might not just lose influence in Houston, they could see their entire operation dismantled piece by piece. But if he stays silent, then he risks going down alone, carrying the weight of federal charges that could bury him for good. And that's why this moment feels so dangerous, because either way, the fallout will be ugly. If Boosie flips, the streets will brand him forever. If he refuses, the feds will keep tightening the noose until somebody cracks. It's a lose-lose game, and the dice are already rolling. The silence from Jay Prince Sr. and Jr. only adds more fuel to the fire. They're not speaking, not moving, at least not publicly. But the industry sees the cracks forming. Artists pulling back, labels whispering, promoters steering clear. The same check-in culture that once ran Houston with an iron grip is now trembling on the edge of collapse. So here's the cliffhanger. Does Boosie protect himself and bring mob ties crashing down? Or does he stay locked in the code and risk it all? One thing's for sure, the rap game will never be the same once this card gets played. If you're following this saga, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Boosie will flip or fight? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next, because this story is only getting hotter. And that's where Boosie's situation gets deadly dangerous. If he really is cooperating, the feds could slide him protection in exchange for hard intel. But let's be real, out here in the streets, that type of protection can backfire quick. Because once people believe you're feeding the other side, your name doesn't stay in whispers anymore. It starts popping up in threats. The same alliances that once kept you safe can flip into targets overnight, and survival turns into a whole new game. This is the razor's edge Boosie is standing on right now. If he plays ball with the feds, mob ties could fall. But if he stands silent, the weight of 2 federal cases could crush him. Either way, his next move will send shockwaves across Houston, and maybe the entire rap game. So what do you think? Will Boosie flip and shake the industry to its core, or stay loyal and risk it all? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your people. And trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. See you soon.